Raising money for that perfect deal? Well, let's talk about it. This is Pitchdeck News for Real Estate with Brad Strickland and Rob Garrett. Hey, we're still going. I upgraded just right. Look at that. Recording in progress. All right. Well, I think I'll just text some on to that first episode so we can be a full understanding of what's this podcast going to be about. So where do you want to take this episode to start off? It's the end of episode one, really. It is.
It is the end of episode one, kind of into two, partly one. That's okay. We kind of left everybody hanging at the end of episode one.
Yes.
Really, what does this look like? And I think it makes sense for us to talk through a real life project.
Okay.
We're going to talk about the Maverick, and we'll talk about how we got to that. One of my projects in Midwest City, Oklahoma.
Yes.
I think it's helpful to have something that's real and tangible, and we'll show people the process that you walked me through,
right?
To help, because I've already done all the underwriting. I know the market's good.
Yep.
I know we're going to lease it. I know it's going to be fantastic.
Yep.
We just got to get the funds to do it, and that's what we're here to talk about. So
okay, well then I'll put up the Mavericks PDF file that you sent me, and I'm gonna do a real fast intro to why we even had the conversation. So I'm Brad Strickland, and I've been a hyper creative my entire life. I pulled my first building permit at age 13 on a Huffy bicycle for my uncle in the city of LaPorte, Texas. He said, "See if your high school teacher will let you draw it." Mr. Engel let me draw a set of blueprints, made 2 sets of blueprints, got them to my uncle. My uncle said, "Here, go down to City Hall and bring back the permit." So at age 13, I started doing architecture and design. Fast forward, tons and tons of houses with lots of people, lots of cool projects. Ended up finding myself on television with Martin. Hey, Martin. And so we win a show called $1 Billion Buyer. Tillman Fertitta, he is a massive restaurant owner. And from there, I'd already started going down a path. I didn't know if I told you, but I went ahead and printed. This was about 3 weeks ago, but I printed the BoMoSo philosophy. This is the first time I've ever printed it. And there's about 10 more pages that aren't here. But I've decided that this is the key, my philosophy, my design philosophy, and it stemmed from getting my 10,000 hours in my 20s. You know, you become an expert at 10,000 hours. I did that because I started at 13.
Oh, Brad, you froze on me.
Yeah, I saw you froze too. I think we'll just have to live with it because I did that a little bit in that first episode. But on my journey of architecture, I didn't want to abandon it. I mean, it was handed to me. Not very many guys pull a building permit like that at 13. So around 29, 30, 33, most guys are getting done with their architectural degrees. I'd already blown out of everything I knew. And so I was having to leave my area to expand my brain, like the area of architecture. And so I'd listen to TED Talks and all this other stuff, listen to a particular guy share his time down in South America. And he said, out of the human senses, and I asked you this, remember? Yeah. How many human senses does the body have? We have like taste and touch and smell. Okay, I'm being silly here for those who see the video. And you said 5 senses. Pretty much what I said. Everybody says this is because we all went to public school. Okay, that's a jab. And the gentleman said, when he asked this village what was the most important of the senses, the human senses, the one you don't want to get rid of, the entire village says the sense of balance, because there was like a gorge that the kids would have to walk across on a log. And if they didn't do it, they would die. So the sense of balance was crucial. I have no sense of balance. I can't skateboard worth nothing, but my son can, right? So the sense of balance registered with me because I don't have it very strongly. And I went deep dive, and Wikipedia right now will tell you there's 21 human senses, and there's some debate on, that sort of thing. But it's easy to say there's a sense of urgency. You've had that doctor who's playing on a cell phone, like, "Doctor, come on, let's go. We're having a baby here." Or that dude, "Bro, we're with the Queen. We're in a church." Bro, he had no sense of propriety. He's clueless. Right? And a sense of direction. Where did I park my car? Now, doesn't that sound like everybody's wives? Whereas guys have a stronger sense of direction. As an architect designer, I realized that those human senses, each time you trigger that, it's a dopamine, adrenaline, serotonin, right? It's drugs, and those are released into our body. That's why when you see that Porsche 911 and that body, the car drive by, you're like, whoa, it hits you in the emotion.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I started applying that to architecture probably in my mid 30s and got real serious about it in my 40s. I'm 55 now, and I've really got it dialed in. And how do I use it in residential architect became prominent because of barndominiums, because they're just so different at the time. And I love the balance of economics, but a lot of design style. That's kind of my sweet spot. And how do I explain that to normal people? So I realized that the mantra of what I do, that the essence of all of these pages of my design philosophy comes down to it being emotionally provoking and then being unique. And being unique with distinction, not just painting your house pink. Oh, look, he's unique. That's dumb. but being unique and rare, like the Mona Lisa. And then emotionally provoking, architecture, you know, when I found out it was like entertainment, it made it a whole lot easier. Architecture is entertainment. If you go to France, you're going to go see the Eiffel Tower. If you go to Egypt, see the pyramids. New York, you'll see Empire State Building. And so also, they're also told like a story. So when you go to a funeral home, there's a certain story from the time you pull into the property until you leave the property. There's a sense of reverence and respect. And then in residential housing and then in assisted living facilities and even in a prison, there's a story. And whether you think of it as a movie script like I do, you're either a horror movie, a rom-com, a documentary. That, by the way, is the worst. Whoever calls their wife up, hey, let's go see a documentary tonight. That's where, by the way, your pitch deck landed with me the first time.
Yeah.
What did I say to you? I'm sorry, I pushed you off, right?
I happen to like documentaries, depending on what they are, especially sports. But
we do.
They only the ones that tell a good story, to your point.
Yes. And then when you're leaving the documentary at the movie theater with your family and you're walking out, y'all are talking, wasn't that a great documentary when, you know, such and such pulled out the whip or the laser gun? And then you tell 5 of your friends, so what did you guys do this weekend? Oh, we sat around and watched a documentary. No, this is what every single pitch deck looks like. So I'll phrase it like this. Facts tell documentary, stories sell, right? And I brought that with you. So to wrap it up, I came to this point where I knew the EQ score, emotionally provoking and highly unique. EQ, emotionally provoking, highly unique. That was everything for me in residential. I've applied it to a lot of commercial projects, rental neighborhoods and assisted living, hotels. Your project came, and I've never actually applied the EQ to an outside of BoMoSo clientele until you. And that was because we've known each other for 2 years, have a lot of respect for you and what you've accomplished. Actually, I'm jealous. But it's cool stuff. And I just wanted crossover. I wanted to help you. I remember talking to you on the phone, like you sent it to me. I said, well, because of coming from my desk, I can't send a normal pitch deck to my friends because they're all expecting a story, passion, vision, like with Tillman Fertitta. I think he really helped me when he said, I need your vision. Tillman Fertitta says this on national television. You can go check this out. He didn't need my money and he didn't need my time. You know, the great book of scripture says a people will perish from a lack of vision. And so does your project or your property have a vision? I hear my cuckoo clock. Can you hear my cuckoo clock?
I hear it. Yeah.
You hear it?
Yeah.
Got that in Germany, so it's got respect for me every time I hear it. So, you know, you go back to your pitch deck, you know, does it have vision? Does it have passion? Because if it doesn't, facts just tell, stories sell. So I've taken that approach, not just with the aesthetics, whether it's concrete or stucco or cedar shake, metal, roofing, whatever. Yes, that's important. But more importantly is the passion and the vision. That's what Tillman needed. That's what I try to help pull out of your project.
Right.
I'm talking to you personally. Screw the audience.
I know you are.
Screw the audience, buddy. We're raising 11 million. You've raised 6. Going for another 11. That's what we're after, right? And so how do we do that is if there is passion and there is a vision, then that creates a story. And then from that story gives you the name, which I've already talked about. How important is the name? Why'd you name it that? And you gave us you gave us the reason you wanted to use the word humble. And BoMoSo is Brad Milton Strickland's initials. That's just my signature. It's my autograph of what I do, BoMoSo. And so now I'm excited about making this available, we're both very, very busy. We don't have hardly any bandwidth to be doing what we're doing. But I told you I'll help your project because you have 2 projects, and we'll do them sequential. We'll do the first one, then we'll do the second one. But even now, you've already brought another outside. Hey, Brad, what would you do with this old school? And I was like, oh crap! I can see where the value add is so important to your guys trying to raise money. You're the guy to understand the numbers to see if I should even waste my time. Not, well, I shouldn't say it that way, but not every deal is real. A lot
it's not.
Dreams. A lot of deals are dreams, and so I'm available to help you. We can help 1 or 2 every month, maybe 3 a month. We'll see. And let's talk about how we first started.
Yeah.
So kind of given my bio enough. You think everybody's got a handle on what I am? I'm a weirdo that just thinks 21 human senses. Who does that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, people might have to pause and kind of ponder on that for a little bit before they restart.
Go look on Wikipedia. And you know it in your gut. I mean, a sense of balance was the one that woke me up. So what I did when you sent over your pitch deck, I looked it over, I scanned it over. I was like, looks like another 500 decks I've seen this year. And then you followed up. 80% of all sales are made with the follow-up. 80%. That's
right.
Hey, what do you know about my pitch deck? I remember that. And in the meantime, I'm trying to how do I tell him? It's just another pitch deck. I like you, and I want a crossover. So then we kind of we had these conversations, and I said, look, you got to do this. It has to have the story and the name. And then I gave you the 7 questions. Should we bring up the 7 questions I asked you?
We did. Let me give a little bit of context of the site, because I think it goes into the name, which is one thing I didn't have for the project.
Bouncing all over the place.
I was. When you show the pitch deck, it's called. We just called it the Residence of Midwest City, just for the time being, knowing that we were going to change the name. The site sits in Midwest City. It is right across the street, right across the highway from Tinker Air Force Base.
Yep.
And it's a large Air Force base, very well respected. Just it's been there for a long time, and so that'll help when we I think we may have already mentioned it, but we ended up calling it the Maverick, and I threw out some different names to you. One of them was the Maverick, which my partners and I had kind of thrown around different stuff, and that's where we sort of landed. It ties into the base. And I'll be honest with you, Brad, it almost, not that the project wasn't real to me, but it almost makes it more real. Hey, we got a name to this. When I talk to people, I go, hey, let me tell you about the Maverick, not this multifamily development project I'm working on, right? It's the Maverick. It's kind of like what you said before with the Mona Lisa. It has a name. If I said, let me sell you a painting, you're going to go, okay. If I said, hey, you want to invest in a multifamily development project? You're like, yeah, I guess. I mean, that is kind of, maybe that's what you do. Maybe it's not. Hey, do you want to invest in the Maverick? Let me tell you about it. And that has helped. I'll be honest with you. I have not, the deck that you have is not going to show the name the Maverick, but that's what we've gone with. That's what we've decided, the road we've decided to go down. So just a little bit of context there.
Yeah. And I'm going to be showing some of the PDFs of the original, and maybe we'll do a case study on the website, someday, of case studies as we work with other clients. But go on. So you like the name the Maverick, and so the
Maverick works well. So this is a 296 unit project. It sits on the entire site that we own is about 20 acres. We're building on about 14 of it. So we have a lot of excess land, which we'll get into here in a minute.
Yep.
With some different ideas that you and I kind of talked about we could do. It's all wooded. And so, one of the ideas when we first spoke that I told you about, and it was, hey, we can go in and for real, real cost effectively carve in some walking paths, just some natural walking paths. We have the land to do it. Could be a really cool amenity to add to what we already have. So, and I don't want to get ahead of you here into the EQ test, but, we are going to have a lot of amenities. I think one of the questions on the EQ test is what sets you apart, right? It's maybe not.
The way I phrase it is, how do you use the word only?
only. Or
that is the power moment. Guys who are watching, write that down and go and look at your pitch deck right now. This is a value add just for watching. And if you don't see the word only anywhere in your pitch deck, there's probably something to sit in on this podcast and listen to. Do a Control F, type the word only, and see if it shows up for any reason. It did not with the Maverick. I'm just saying.
It didn't. It didn't. Okay. So where the conversation went and is we had, and the process was great because it just gets you talking through stuff, right? And thinking about stuff. And so and I'll share it here too. So, I went into the different amenities that we have. So we have a clubhouse, which everybody does. We've designed a really cool fitness space. All these things you have to have, right? Not saying you don't have these. You do have to
price
have
of entry.
We have 2 clubhouses basically. We have the main clubhouse, which has the fitness area, mail room, that different kind of stuff. And then in the center of the site, we have our pool, and we have a pool house, which has sort of a club room in there. We're doing some co-working space in there. We have a pond on site. We'll have a path around the pond. We'll have a dog park. We have a multi-sport court, which you'll be able to do pickleball, basketball, that different kind of stuff. We have a sand volleyball court, which is just kind of your typical amenities, right? And we have a lot of quantity. We have a lot of amenities, which I think is important. I think when you're designing these space, residents want to see that. What you said to me was, yeah, but everybody has that. So what's your only? And so that kind of got us into this extra land we had. And what can we do besides walking paths? And you threw out to me a pump track.
Yep.
And I'll be real honest, I had no idea what a pump track was, and went and looked it up. And
pause. So you see this? This is why that came to me without even referencing any notes, because of my design philosophy. I didn't go off and talk and research the world and come back to you and bring this to you. Do you realize how quick you got that from me?
No, it was there in that conversation. It was right away.
Exactly.
Right away.
And that was the most appropriate for yours. I mentally went through about 15 other ones and ideas and things that are going on.
Sure.
And that's because I have to live at that pointy part of architecture and design, like the very, very front part where you even said, to be honest, you just said it, I'll rewind it.
And you threw out to me a pump track.
Yep.
And I'll be real honest, I had no idea what a pump track was.
See, he said it. To be honest, I didn't even know what a pump track was. That's okay. You are a numbers guy. Go ahead. Keep going. You like the idea of a pump track.
I like the idea of a pump track. It's funny. I ran it by my partner. So one of my partners, I have 2 partners in the deal. One of them is actually my general contractor, which I think from this standpoint in the world we're in is a big value add.
Oh yeah.
Having your general contractor as a partner. But I ran it by him, and he was like, that's brilliant. And he said, we can do that. That won't cost us much at all to do that.
No.
And what that did is and then he throws out to me, he goes, hey, what if we did a disc golf course?
Easy.
We can do that. That's not breaking the budget to do that.
In context, for the people are saying, oh yeah, I wish I had so much land. This was technically unusable land. It was going to be part of a flood zone, floodway.
Right.
You weren't going to be allowed to do anything with it other than surface adjustments and stuff. And
right.
It is going to tie into a city walking trail, green belt kind of a thing. Just to put it in context, we weren't saying let's go build a pump track and then build an apartment building around it. This was like, you've got 3, 5, 7 acres over here and I don't got the hard numbers, but I just knew that there's room for a pump track.
There's room. And what this illustrates though is the process. And
yes, it
does. Every site's different. Not everybody's going to have all this extra land. We'll eventually maybe next week talk about my other project, but that's an urban site on 3.3 acres. I don't have that. I can't do that. And so it just helps you kind of think through is how can I make my project stand out? How can I have the only of something? How can I be the only project in town that has whatever it is? And so that's really what that process, that's what it went to. And like you said, you have your philosophy, and so it comes really quickly. Just asking these questions. And maybe we start. Let's go through the questions.
Start with the So we have, I was looking for them. I can't find them right now, but the 7 questions that I sent you was the start of a framework. I think it's going to be about 8 or 9 questions. If anybody wants me to review their deck, the thing I'm going to do is like send me a video. And if they can't send me a video, then I'm going to send them these questions like, hey, you mind answering these questions for me? And that just put me in the where they're at. There's different investor profilers, and there's different development profiles, personality profiles. And that's what that's going to help me do.
Yeah, and I'm bringing it up right now.
Okay, so the first question is,
what is the name of the project? And that we've kind of talked about that.
You gave me 4 answers or 3 answers.
Yeah, and so we kind of talked through that, and it's good to kind of think through that. And some people may already have the name of the project and why they named it that. And that's great. I didn't. We didn't at that point, but that really helps. So we've talked about that. The second question goes along with it. Why did you name it that?
Yep.
You know, going into, and so the Maverick ties into Tinker Air Force Base. We've come up with some really cool different things we can do to tie that in. Yeah. And it's really what's the right word? Tip of the cap to the military. Obviously, I know you do. I have a lot of respect for guys that serve and serve our country in that way. I'm not. I'll say this: I'm not man enough to be in the military. So
it takes a special guy for real. It really does. I'm not either.
I have the utmost respect for those that serve. So
a bunch of family members in the military.
So what is the name of the project? Why did you name it that? What makes your project different? And this is where it what makes it different. And I think about it in the context of what makes it different when somebody's looking at it, when a potential investor's looking at it. What separates my project from somebody else's?
And right here, let me interject. So when you said what makes my project different, I know our audience was thinking investor, and I was thinking simultaneously investor and final buyer or resident. So if we're selling it, it's a buyer. If it's a rental property, and I'm thinking for both, because both are important. And so when we get the silo of Excel spreadsheets, we're not thinking of final experience of that. And so I'll let you go. Continue on. I just wanted to make sure.
Well, no, that's a great point.
Why is it different? It is a question.
Here's why that matters is when you just look at it from an underwriting standpoint, which we've already said is important, right? It has to work.
It is very important.
Whatever market you're in, generally your costs are going to be the same for everybody, for the most part.
Yeah.
For the most part, we're within the same range. Rents are what they are in the market. Mm-hmm. From just looking at from a general standpoint. Now we're going to talk about, we've been thinking through some ideas of how can we improve rents.
Well, let me go ahead and boldly put it out there. I don't really get engaged with normal. A normal project, I turn people down, not to be mean or anything, but there's plenty of designers, architects, and contractors, and I don't want to do normal with my life. I want extraordinary. So when we're looking, and I take on an engagement like with this one, I am deliberately going for a 20% bump up in rent rates. So if it's $1,000, I want $1,200. Okay. I don't want to be the t-shirt at Walmart. I want to be the Louis Vuitton. At Walmart, it's $7. At Louis Vuitton, it's $150. It's just cotton that came out of the ground. It grew fluffy. Somebody made a t-shirt. And came up with the passion, the story, and the name for this t-shirt called Louis Vuitton, and it's $145. So I want to work on those projects, and I can help your project become that, right?
Right.
And so if I'm going for a 20% bump up in rent rate from the get-go, that's my goal.
Right.
There's a second thing going on. I want a freaking waiting list. Have you ever seen the lines for a Supreme t-shirt? Do you know how long the wait is right now for a Ferrari? If you put your 50K down as a retainer and deposit, you got to wait 2 years to get your Ferrari. So where's your waiting list? There's guys that are good at what I do, and they pre-sold the whole neighborhood. I love pre-sales. And so, I'm looking at your pitch deck. You didn't have a pre-sale plan. I didn't see anywhere in there where you're going to pre-sell. There wasn't here's a page dedicated to leasing it up.
Right.
What you're going to do, the Empire State Building, we'll build it and they will come. It took 30 years. It finished in 1931. It was profitable in 1951. So it was a 20 years for the Empire State.
Yeah.
I think that was a pretty big, significant building. Well, of course, there was a World War in there. It was just after the Great Depression. Okay. But
things happen.
You don't want to go that direction if you have access to something like this, somebody who's going to walk you through these 7 questions.
That's right.
So 20% bump up and a freaking waiting list of 10%. You got 1,000 units. I want 100 people waiting to move in. That's where I'm coming to the project, right? So then when I said, what makes your project different? I'm listening to say, is it possible, for that to happen, for those 2 criteria? Obviously, if I just get halfway, it's a pretty good deal, right? We'll get into
it works out.
What I ask you later.
It works out pretty good. But yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. And that's something to think about, is what does make my project different, because we do want to lease it. And not just lease it, but release it for a premium. And now let me say this, is that's what helps it stick out to, if we're just talking about investors, because all investors, and I would do the same thing, all banks are going to underwrite it on what the market is.
Correct.
And that's where I can help, because I know what they're looking for. But if we can show, like you said, where's the page in your pitch deck that shows how are we going to get, how are we potentially going to get?
It doesn't exist in the last 50 pitch decks I looked at.
No.
So Elon Musk, I got to give him credit.
Excited.
Yeah, Elon Musk put a Tesla truck mock-up on a stage. Then he broke the windows with a steel ball. He broke the freaking windows of his own truck. And he says, hey, I'm going to be building these. You want to get on the waiting list? It's $100. He had 1 million people gave him $100 bill. And then I think JP Morgan financed the factory.
Yeah.
So you're going to go and compete in the marketplace of Texas donuts or assisted living facilities or, residential neighborhoods, and you don't have a pre-lease up package. You don't have a plan, a pre-lease up, pre-sales approach. Right. That was something I brought to you. So now what's the next question? Let's move on.
So the next question is, what is the story of this project? Like you said, facts tell, story sell. And, I will say that's still in progress.
Yes.
And
that's where we're at. Yeah.
That's part of this process, right? It's not, sometimes you got to build that story, and we're working to build that story now. And the different elements that go into it.
Yeah.
It's a great question to think about. It goes in it, and it kind of ties into the next one. What is the vision of this project, right? I think sometimes those tie together. And that's what we're trying to figure out.
Vision comes first, or passion. Right. Vision first, story comes out of that. And then the third thing is the name. So just to go back to the Tillman Fertitta thing, the winning design, the design that I won with, the passion came because the project I had designed was a coffee shop / like a gelato. Well, it's called a patisserie, fancy word. We don't use it much in Texas, but I had to figure it out. It's a coffee shop with some gelato. So I had to go back to what's the story? Where's the passion for this kind of a project? You haven't heard this yet, have you, Rob? I don't think I've shared this, how I won the show. Of course, Martin was part of it too. So I'm driving in. I only had a few days left before we had to present our final design. And it dawned on me, what was my most exciting moment ever in my whole life about having ice cream? And I knew if I could capture that feeling, it would be the story. And then how would I express it in architecture would be what I present to Tillman. So I'm driving into work and I'm thinking, man, the best ice cream I ever had was with my grandpa Hartman. He was a missionary to Haiti, so he'd only come back to the States like every 4 years. And when I would be with him, he lived to humble means, right? And he would reach in his pocket. We'd be in the mall here in Houston, and he'd start jingling his coins. He goes, hey, and I'm a little 7-8-year-old, and he starts shaking these coins. He goes, and we're walking towards the ice cream store. And he goes, let's go see what we can get for a nickel. Let's go see what, and he's going for the little spoon. It's just my grandpa's way, right? As soon as he started doing that, I'm like, I'm getting ice cream. Like it was a foregone conclusion. I'm scoring ice cream. It wasn't going to stop at a nickel, but this is grandpa loving on his grandson's moment, right? And so let's go see what we get for a nickel. So that feeling of absolute joy that my grandpa's getting me the ice cream, how can I express that? And so I started thinking, I'm literally driving on the toll road going, to me, it was just joy. And I'd seen those pictures of the runs or in Pakistan or India where you see all these colors of dust, yellow and blue and pink and red. And I was like, that's how I felt. That was the feeling of joy. And I was like, oh my gosh, how can I express powder suspended in midair? Like I couldn't.
Yeah,
so I came up with giant chrome ribbons of blue, red, and yellow. Just like in my mind, all of this joy comes from behind me and goes, vroom. You know what I mean? It just overwhelms me with all this joy. So look, there's the passion. Yeah, there's the story. And you know what I named the place? Joy Lavoom. Vroom. And that's the name of the winning design. Joy Lavoom. Lavoom doesn't mean anything.
No.
It was just, how do you express the feeling of absolute happiness about ice cream?
Yeah.
So passion, story, name. You have to have that for the Maverick. We're on it. You know,
we're going to get
just give an exercise because we're going to wrap this up. And we'll come back to the last 7 questions in the next episode, guys. This has been fun, Rob, but I'm really trying to honor some time here for the other guys. So if we're going to use only right now on your project, I'd say the Maverick is the only development that has a drone landing pad.
That's right.
And with that, that's episode. That's it.
That's it. That's it.
Let's go ahead and wrap this one up. You and I can continue the conversation, but everybody, seriously, if you're in the business of putting up cool projects, we welcome conversation. There's some guests coming up on future episodes already because this is the topic of the day. When you got 8% interest rates for people to go and buy a house with perfect credit, it's ridiculous. People are only getting 5% returns with their capital, and they should be getting much, much better. But how do you navigate from a pile of pitch decks that are all boring and get to the exciting ones that, oh, this is the Mona Lisa and it was thought out and here's why. And that's what we're doing, right? Anything else you want to say?
That's what we're doing. No, I think you summed it up well. What I'd say is it's getting in front of people, getting their attention. And on the flip side of that, implementing ideas that actually work and that work within the project,
budget busters.
And our budget busters.
That's
and that's what we're trying to that's what we're trying to help with, like a bump track. I love it.
All right.
All right. Thanks everyone. We appreciate you listening.
See ya.